Germany, the country of cars, precision technology, and on-time schedules. Is it any good to start your business here? It's coming up now. Hi, I'm Oliver and welcome back to the channel. Thank you for tuning in, and if you're new here, please consider subscribing and pushing the notification bell so YouTube lets you know whenever we upload new videos. If we look at the overall factors, we can see that Germany has quite a high GDP, not as high as Switzerland, which I will link up here in the video, but it's still among the highest in the world. Furthermore, Germany has a very large population of roughly 82 million, and it is the largest economy in the European Union. Now, this also implies that it actually has the most power and the most money to spend. Furthermore, Germany has been very much featured by startups, and there's a big startup scene, especially on the Berlin cluster. However, there are clusters also in Munich and other parts of the country. So on the big pro side, Germany is very well established for startups and has very good connections to educational and entrepreneurial sites. Also, there's a lot of governmental support to start businesses, and the level of education of the workers and students is on the top levels you can get on the planet. Nonetheless, Germany has an aging population and it is relying on migration. Until today, the majority of migrants are from Turkey, but this is going to change over time, and more migrants will have to come to Germany because there's still or will not be enough workforce for the future. Concerning starting a business, Germany is among the top countries where it is feasible to get enough startup capital funding. This is true for all rounds, and there are some major funds located in Germany because they are backed up by private investors and of course large companies, because they know that they have to move on it. Especially if you look at the car industry, which is of course a dominant factor in the German industrial setup. They are very well aware that they have to move on, otherwise they will become irrelevant in the future. The next upside in Germany is also its very well established legal framework. So for sure you are that things are done in an appropriate way. There's also a low amount of corruption, and equal rights for men and women are established as well. Nonetheless, of course, social behaviors not always necessarily hold up to those high principles, meaning that you will see only, say, a limited amount of women in boards, etc. of large companies. But for starting a company, the ratio of male to female entrepreneurs becomes increasingly better towards the 50-50 ratio. Another great thing is the technical expertise you will find across the countries. You will find clusters for automotive, biotechnology, internet technology, optics, you name it. Whatever that you will find or you aim to start your business with, you will find a proper technology cluster somewhere in Germany. Furthermore, these clusters are very well connected or interconnected with all the necessary further companies and or governmental institutions, just to bring the technologies to the next level. Another positive thing on Germany is that it is part of the European Union. This allows you as a startup founder to have access to the largest market in the Western Hemisphere of 550 million people in all European nations. This is the third largest market besides, let's say, India and China. The entrepreneurs in Germany are of a slightly different composition compared to Switzerland, where the entrepreneurs usually are a little older when they start their own businesses first. In Germany, you will also find a lot of young people starting disruptive companies, which is specifically known in the area of Berlin, where you find these disruptive clusters. And it is becoming a community that is kind of self-sustaining itself. Of course, Berlin has had its negative effects due to that startup scene now, meaning that rents, etc. have gone up so much that people had to move out of the city center. Which brings us to the, let's say, not so positive things of Germany. First of all is the tax regime. Germany is a high tax country, and it is really complicated to fill out taxes in Germany. There is the saying that if you would put up all tax rules of the world, 75% of it would be German. It is unbelievably complicated, and it is not specifically made for small startups and small businesses. Furthermore, the complete bureaucracy system is not yet up to date as you would expect it from a modern nation. If you compare it to other countries like Switzerland or let's say Singapore, you will see that the German bureaucracy still relies on a lot of manual paperwork and not having a full IT system that is blasting through everything. I don't know how long this will continue like this, but I'm sure that this is one of the biggest disadvantages of this country, And that also has an impact on the time it takes to register a business or to get a tax return or other things that you need from the bureaucracy side of things. Another negative side effect of Germany with its, let's say, well-paid population is that the cost of manufacturing, for instance, are very high in Germany. Even though there's a lot of automation going on, if you need quick and fast prototypes that are cheap, you will not find them in Germany. You might find them in their neighboring countries like Czech Republic or Poland, but none specifically in Germany itself. This might be true for other things as well. So Germany by itself is not necessarily known to be a cost-efficient country to do manufacturing in. That of course is different if you have very specific requirements that require high skilled labor. Then you're better off in Germany than in a low-cost country where the knowledge or the know-how or the education of the working force is not as established as it is in Germany. The next challenge might be, especially for those of you planning to start an international startup, is that English is not a necessarily language and it is not spoken everywhere. Different to, let's say, Switzerland, where people are getting used to using English because of the high amount of foreigners. In Germany, this is not the case, and you might struggle, especially in, let's say, smaller cities or countrysides, to communicate in English. Hence, German is a must, and not everybody is keen to learn German or able, because it is quite a difficult language. Nonetheless, if you have a few bits of English and a few bits of German more specifically, you will be very welcome and you will get along. Another challenging factor are the legal requirements, specifically concerning talents that are non-EU citizens. If you are in need of talents, let's say from Asia or United States or Canada or anywhere outside the European Union or the European international trade area that includes Switzerland, Iceland and Norway, you will have challenges and difficulties to get working permits for those people. Furthermore, they actually emphasize that you should get the talent within the European nations where there is no restriction at all. Nonetheless, this can be challenging because not all know-how is actually available in Germany and or Europe. The level of education and entrepreneurship is not as high as it could be and it should be if you're like in favor of startups, etc. And there are a lot of large companies. I mean, we all know the big ones: Volkswagen, Mercedes, BMW, but then there is also like Lufthansa or Siemens, you know, all the big companies in the world that you could think of that are German are of course in Germany. That means that there are a lot of jobs available in these companies, and people tend to work for the larger companies, and that is the majority of people, for what is called small medium companies, which have a lot of technical specialities among them. That actually prevents those people from funding or starting their own startup and from thinking, let's say, disruptive in one way or the other. So as a summary, Germany is a great country to start your business, and it is the largest market within the European Union. Plus, you can have access to the complete European Union as a market as such, which is 550 million people. The disadvantages lies within its very complicated bureaucracy and, let's say, complicated and unfavorable tax systems. Nonetheless, you will find talented and willing to work people there, and you will have a blast, especially in those startup scene areas like Berlin, Munich, Hamburg, or anywhere else. What are your experiences with Germany as a startup hub? Just leave a comment down below and see you next time.